You check your phone for a message that never comes. You look at the sky and ask a question that receives no answer. It feels like abandonment. But what if the silence isn't God ignoring you? What if the silence is actually the sound of God protecting you? This is the truth that nobody tells you in the middle of the desert. We are taught that God is a talker. We are told that if we pray, He will answer immediately. But the Bible tells a different story of seasons where the clouds are thick. It tells of moments where the heavens feel like brass. If you are in one of those moments right now, listen closely. You are not being punished. You are being prepared for a weight of glory you cannot yet carry. Silence is not a sign of distance. Silence is not a mark of disappointment. Silence is a specialized tool for your transformation. Maybe you have started to wonder if you did something wrong. Maybe you feel like everyone else has a direct line while yours is cut. You wake up early to pray, but only hear the clock ticking. You are doing everything right. But the heavens still feel like cold stone. You feel like a ghost in your own spiritual life. Sound familiar? Let me say this straight. The silence is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a deeper chapter. The world says silence is a sign of a dead relationship. But in the kingdom, silence is the mark of a deep one. Think about it. You do not need to chatter with the person you trust most. You can sit in a room for an hour and not say a word. You are comfortable because you are secure. God is inviting you into a level of security. There is a specific reason the noise has stopped. The voices that used to fill your head have gone quiet for a reason. The friends who used to give you advice have moved away for a reason. Even the spiritual highs you used to feel have faded away. This is not a mistake. This is a divine clearing of the room. The world calls it loneliness. God calls it isolation. For the sake of instruction, they said you were losing your edge. God says He is sharpening you in the dark. This video is going to change how you see the quiet. We are going to look at why the silence lasts longer than you expected. We are going to see what God is doing when He isn't saying anything at all. By the end of this message, you will start to cherish it, because you will realize that the silence is where the real work happens. This does not mean God will never speak again. It just means He is changing the way He speaks to you. He is moving from the ears to the heart. He is moving from the external to the internal. Did you catch that? If you are watching this and you feel that heavy quiet, do not run. Do not try to fill the silence with the noise of the world. Do not go back to the things God already told you to leave. Stay in the room. Wait in the quiet. The Master is not absent. He is simply working on the parts of you that words cannot reach. Number 1. The disappearance of your circle is a divine firewall. God creates a vacuum to keep out the noise of your past. Let me say this straight. God is not ignoring you. He is insulating you. Most people think they are losing their influence. They think they are losing their friends. They think they are losing their social standing. But God is actually pulling you into a private room. He is shutting the door. He is turning down the volume of the world. Think about your life a year ago. You had a dozen voices telling you what to do. You had people giving you advice every single day. You had constant notifications on your phone. You were never alone. But you were also never at peace. You were living for the opinions of people who did not even know your soul. You were busy, but you were empty. Then, the silence started. The invitations stopped coming. The group chat went quiet. The people you used to rely on suddenly became distant. You felt like you were being erased. You felt like the world was moving on without you. You spent Friday nights wondering what you did wrong. You replayed every conversation in your head. You looked for a reason for the distance. You have been there. This is not a mistake. This is a deliberate act of divine protection. God knew those voices would drown out his own. He knew those opinions would steer you off the path. He had to remove the noise so you could hear the signal. He had to clear the stage so he could be the only actor in your life. The silence is not a void. It is a shield. The Bible speaks of this clearly. Look at Psalm chapter 91, verse 1. The text says, "He who dwells in the secret place shall abide under the shadow." A shadow is a place of limited light. It is a place of quiet. It is a place where you are hidden from the sun. God is pulling you into his shadow. He is hiding you from the heat of public opinion. He is hiding you from the pressure of performance. Think about the life of Moses. This is a man who was raised in the palace. He was a prince of Egypt. He had every voice of power in his ear. He was surrounded by the music and the magic of the world. He was a man of high status. Then, God moved him. God sent him to the backside of a desert. He spent 40 years in total silence. Moses went from a palace to a pasture. He went from speaking to kings to speaking to sheep. He did not hear a word from God for 4 decades. He felt forgotten. He felt like his best days were behind him. But God was doing something specific. God had to silence the music of Egypt. He had to drain the palace out of the man. If Moses had stayed in the palace, he would have missed the bush. He would have been too busy to notice a fire. He would have been too important to listen to a voice in the sand. The 40 years of silence were not a waste. They were a washing. They were a clearing of the mind. God was building a firewall between Moses and his past. You are in your desert season right now. You feel like you have been demoted. You feel like you have been sidelined. But God is just changing your frequency. He is making sure that when He speaks, you are not distracted. He is making sure that when He gives you the plan, you do not ask for a second opinion. He wants your undivided attention. The world calls it a setback. God calls it a setup. They say you are isolated. God says you are insulated. Do not fight the firewall. Do not try to climb back over the fence to your old life. The people you are missing are the people who would have held you back. The noise you are craving is the noise that would have confused you. Trust the hand that moved them. Trust the heart that silenced the room. It was not a lonely season. It was a listening season. Number 1. The volume of the Spirit. God lowers His voice, so you will finally lean in. Here is the truth no one wants to say out loud. We love the thunder. We love the mountaintop moments. We love it when the music is loud and the emotions are high. We think the presence of God is measured by the intensity of the feeling. But God is not a performer. He is a father. And a father does not always need to shout to be heard. Maybe you remember how it used to be. You would walk into church and feel a wave of peace. You would listen to a song and feel tears in your eyes. You would read a verse and it would jump off the page. Everything was vibrant. Everything was clear. You felt like you had a direct line to heaven. But lately, the line has gone quiet. You go through the motions. You sing the songs. You read the chapters. But you feel nothing. The vibrant colors have turned to gray. You feel like you are walking through a thick fog. You are shouting your prayers into the dark and hearing only an echo. You have started to wonder if God is angry with you. You have started to wonder if you have lost your spiritual edge. You are exhausted from trying to manufacture a feeling that just isn't there. Maybe that is you. Let me tell you what is actually happening. God is training your ears. He is moving you from the milk of the spectacular to the meat of the supernatural. When you were a child in the faith, He gave you the fireworks. He gave you the goosebumps. He gave you the obvious signs. But you are growing up now. And as you grow, He changes the way he communicates. He stops shouting from across the room. He starts whispering right next to your ear. Think about the prophet Elijah. This is a man who had seen the spectacular. He had called down fire from heaven on Mount Carmel. He had seen the sky turn black with rain after 3 years of drought. He was a man of the mountain. But then he found himself in a cave. He was running for his life. He was terrified. He was alone. He was ready to give up. Elijah stood on the mountain and waited for God. A great and strong wind tore the mountain. But the Bible says the Lord was not in the wind. Then there was an earthquake that shook the ground. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. Then there was a fire that lit up the night. But the Lord was not in the fire. Read 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12. The text says that after the fire, there came a still, small voice. Some versions call it a delicate whisper. Elijah had to wrap his face in his mantle. He had to step out to the mouth of the cave. He had to be completely still just to hear what God was saying. God was teaching Elijah a lesson that he is teaching you right now. If God always spoke in the thunder, you would never have to lean in. You could hear him while you were busy. You could hear him while you were distracted. You could hear him while you were running. But a whisper requires proximity. A whisper requires you to stop. It requires you to put your ear to his heart. The silence you feel is actually an invitation to get closer than you have ever been. He is not moving away. He is leaning in. He is forcing you to quiet your own soul. He is forcing you to shut out the noise of your own anxiety. He is teaching you to recognize his voice, not by the volume, but by the frequency. The world says, if it isn't loud, it isn't real. God says, if it is a whisper, it is intimate. They say you have lost the fire. God says you are finding the Father. Do not be afraid of the quiet in your prayer life. Do not try to shout over the silence. Just be still. Put down the phone. Turn off the music. Stop trying to find a word from everyone else and listen for the one voice that matters. He hasn't stopped speaking. He is just speaking softly. Lean in. Number 3, the depth of the root. God uses the dark to grow what the light would kill. Let me say this straight. We live in a culture that worships the harvest. We love the fruit. We love the flowers. We love the moment when the world can see our success. But no tree can survive a storm without a root system. And roots do not grow in the sunlight. Roots only grow in the cold, damp, dark of the earth. You have been doing the work. You have been faithful. In the small things, you wake up and do the same routine every day. You pray for your family. You work your job with integrity, but when you look around, nothing is changing. It feels like you are standing still while everyone else is moving forward. You see the photos of their promotions. You hear about their breakthroughs. You feel stuck in the mud. It feels like your life is a flat line. You are waiting for the sprout, but all you see is dirt. You know this feeling. This does not mean you are failing. It means you are being anchored. God is not interested in giving you a platform you cannot sustain. He is not interested in a surface-level success that withers when the wind blows. He is growing you downward before he grows you upward. The silence is the pressure that forces your roots to go deep into his character. Think about the life of Joseph. He had a dream of greatness when he was only 17. Then he was sold into slavery by his own brothers. Then he was thrown into a dark prison for a crime he did not commit. For 13 years, Joseph lived in total silence. There was no word from God. There was no angelic visit. There was no sign that the dream was still alive. He was forgotten by everyone he helped. He sat in the dark for over 4,000 days. But the Bible gives us a clue about what was happening. Look at Psalm chapter 105, verses 18 and 19. The text says, "His feet were hurt with fetters. His neck was put in an iron collar, until the time that his word came to pass. The word of the Lord tested him." Did you catch that? The word of the Lord did not comfort him. It tested him. God was not ignoring Joseph. He was growing his roots. Joseph needed to be strong enough to save a nation from famine. He needed a character that could handle a palace without losing his soul. If God had given him the crown at 17, his pride would have killed him. The silence of the prison was the weight of the root. Your current season is not a waste of time. It is a work of foundation. God is making sure that when the blessing comes, you will have the depth to keep it. He is making sure that your identity is found in Him, not in the applause of people. If you are in the dark right now, do not try to dig yourself out. Drink from the hidden springs. Grow deep in the quiet. The world says you are being buried. God says you are being planted. Number 4, the capacity for the weight. God is building your spirit to carry the coming glory. Let me say this straight. Most people pray for the blessing, but they are not built for the burden. They want the crown, but they cannot handle the heavy lifting. They want the promise, but they have no muscle to sustain it. God is not just going to give you a miracle. He is going to give you the strength to keep the miracle from crushing you. Imagine a man in a training room. He is standing under a heavy iron bar. His legs are shaking. His breath is coming fast. He is sweating through his shirt. He wants to put the weight down. He looks at the trainer and asks for a break. But the trainer says nothing. The trainer just stands there in silence. The silence feels cruel. It feels like the trainer does not care about the pain. But the trainer knows something the man does not. He knows that the struggle is the only way to build the muscle. He knows that if he takes the weight away, the man will stay weak. This is exactly where you are. You are standing under the weight of a long season. You are carrying the pressure of a quiet heaven. To take it away 1,000 times. You have asked for relief. You have asked for the answer. But God has remained silent. He is standing in the room, watching you. He sees your struggle. He sees the strain on your spirit. But He is not moving yet. Does that ring true? God is using the silence to increase your spiritual capacity. He is stretching your faith. He is strengthening your endurance. He is making you heavy enough to hold what is coming. If He gave you the breakthrough today, you would drop it tomorrow. You would fumble the blessing. You would lose your mind under the pressure of the new season. He loves you too much to give you a platform that will collapse under your feet. Look at the life of David. Long before he was the king of Israel, he was just a boy in the hills. He spent years in the total silence of the wilderness. He was a shepherd. His brothers were off at war. They were getting the glory. They were wearing the armor. David was just sitting with the sheep. No one was watching him. No one was writing songs about him yet. It was a silent, lonely season. But look at what happened in that silence. A lion came to attack the flock. David did not run. He fought the lion and killed it. Then a bear came. David did not hide. He fought the bear and killed it. There was no crowd. There was no applause. There was no social media to post the victory. It was just David, the beast, and the silence of the woods. Read 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 34. David tells King Saul about these moments. He says, "Your servant used to keep his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came, I went out after it. David did not know it then, but God was using the silence to train him for Goliath. The lion was the weight. The bear was the training. The silence was the gym. If David had not killed the lion in secret, he could never have killed the giant in public. The quiet years were the only reason he survived the palace. Your current struggle is your lion. Your current silence is your bear. You think you are being ignored, but you are actually being trained. God is making sure that you are not a one-hit wonder. He is making sure that you have the internal structure to handle external success. He is preparing you for a battle you cannot see yet. You cannot see yet. The world calls it a delay. God calls it a development. They say you are stuck. God says you are strengthening. So the question is not why the silence is lasting so long. The question is how much more weight can God trust you to carry when the lights finally come on. Number 5. The transition of the heart. God removes the gift to see if you still love the giver. Let me say this straight. Most of us do not want God. We want what God can do for us. We want Him to be the solution to our problems. We want Him to be the provider for our needs. We treat Him like a spiritual vending machine. We put in a prayer and we expect a blessing to fall out. But God is not a machine. He is a Father. And He wants more than your shopping list. He wants your soul. Think about your first years in the faith. Everything felt easy. You would pray for a small thing and see it happen. You felt like you had a direct line to the throne. You felt special. You felt like God was your personal assistant. You would ask for a favor, and it would arrive by Friday. You thought this was the normal life. You thought this was how it would always be. You were in love with the miracles. You were in love with the answers. But then the season changed. The answers stopped coming. The miracles dried up. You reached a point where your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling. You did everything the same way. You used the same words. You had the same heart. But the results were different. You felt like a customer who was suddenly being ignored by the manager. You felt like the service had been cut off. You started to panic. You started to look for a sin to confess. So the blessings would start again. You were trying to hack the system to get your comfort back. You have felt this shift. This silence is not a sign of God's anger. It is the beginning of your maturity. God is moving you from a transactional faith to a transformational faith. A transactional faith says, I will serve you as long as you pay me. A transformational faith says, I will serve you because of who you are. God has to hide His hand so you will finally look for His face. He has to take away the gifts so you can find the giver. Think about the life of Job. This is a man who had everything. He had wealth. He had health. He had a beautiful family. He was the most upright man in the land. Then, in a single day, it was all gone. He lost his children. He lost his business. He lost his reputation. He sat in a pile of ashes and scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery. He was in physical and emotional agony. Job looked to the heavens and screamed for an answer. He wanted to know why. He wanted his day in court. But for chapter after chapter, God said nothing. The heavens were like lead. Job's friends showed up and made it worse. They told him he was a secret sinner. They told him he was being punished. They filled the air with religious noise. But Job stayed in the silence. Read Job chapter 23, verse 8. Job says, Behold, I go forward, but he is not there. I go backward, but I cannot perceive him. Job was looking for the God of the harvest. He was looking for the God who gave him the cattle and the kids. But that God was hidden. Job had to find a God who was enough. Even in the ashes, he had to find a God who was worthy of worship even when the bank account was zero. The silence lasted for 37 chapters. Imagine the weight of that. 37 chapters of pain without a single word from the Creator. But Job did not walk away. He stayed in the quiet. He wrestled with the silence. And when God finally spoke, he didn't explain the suffering. He didn't give Job a list of reasons. He gave Job a vision of his majesty. He showed him the foundations of the earth. He showed him the stars. Job's response is the key to your season. He said in chapter 42 that he had heard of God with his ears. But now his eyes had seen him. The silence was the lens that cleared his vision. The loss of the gifts allowed him to see the giver. If God had just fixed the problem on day one, Job would have stayed the same. He would have been a man with a lot of stuff and a little bit of God. Instead, he became a man who knew God. The silence is the vacuum that makes room for a deeper revelation. If your life is quiet right now, it is because God is clearing the room. He is removing the stuff so you can see the Spirit. He is stripping away the distractions of the blessings so you can find the beauty of the provider. He wants to know if you will still be there when the music stops. He wants to know if he is enough. The world says God has left the building. God says, I am standing right in front of you. They say you are losing everything. God says you are finally finding me. Do not be afraid of the empty prayer closet. Do not be afraid of the quiet house. Use this time to stop asking for things and start asking for Him. Tell Him that even if the silence lasts another year, you aren't going anywhere. Tell Him that you don't need the miracle as much as you need the Master. When you reach that point, the silence has done its work. Read that again. You are not being abandoned. You are being protected. Those are not the same thing. You were not being ignored. You were being insulated. The silence was never a sign that God left the room. It was a sign that He was working on something deep, something too important for words, something that required your total focus. You came here today thinking the silence was a wall. You thought it was proof of your failure. You believed that if you were truly holy, God would shout, but you were wrong. The silence is not a wall. It is a door. It is the entrance to a room where the world cannot follow. You were not being pushed away. You were being pulled in. You were being invited into a level of intimacy. This intimacy only happens when the distractions are gone. God was not ignoring your cries. He was answering them with His presence instead of His gifts. He was offering you Himself, and Himself is enough. I want to speak directly to you. You are 60 years old and you feel like a ghost. You are 50 and you feel like your season is over. You are 40 and you feel invisible in your own life. You sit in your living room and the quiet feels heavy. You check your notifications and there is nothing but static. You look at the empty chairs and you feel the ache. Do not let the enemy tell you that you are forgotten. You are in the secret place of the Most High. You are in the shadow of the Almighty. He has hidden you for a reason. He has hushed the room so you could hear His heart. He is using this quiet to give you a hidden strength. This strength is something the world cannot take away. It is a peace that does not depend on a crowd. It is a joy that does not need a miracle. He is making you a pillar in His house. He is making you a warrior of the quiet. The world is loud, but the kingdom is deep. You have been trained for depth. You have been prepared for the weight of glory. The silence was the anvil, and you are the sword. Every hour of waiting was an hour of sharpening. Every night of silence was a night of tempering. You are stronger than you were when the noise started. You are deeper than you were when the gifts were flowing. He has not moved an inch. He is right there in the room with you. He is in the silence of your kitchen. He is in the quiet of your car. He is closer to you than your own breath. He wants you to stop running from the quiet. He wants you to step into it. He is inviting you to a place of rest. He is inviting you to a place of peace. You don't need to perform for him today. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to find the right words. You just need to be with him. You just need to listen to the whisper. He has not forgotten his promise. He has not misplaced your name. He is simply waiting for you to find him in the hollow. He is waiting for you to realize that he is all you need. The door is still open. The room is still quiet. He is right there, and he wants you closer than you have ever been.